Today I'm continuing to copy my summary of the book of Acts into my summary Bible. If you haven't seen my other summary video where I explain why I'm doing that, I'll link that video for you below. Today I'm copying chapter 18, and as I was copying, I was reflecting on the promise God made to Paul. He promised no harm would come to him, but he didn't promise he wouldn't walk through hard things. We see this demonstrated beautifully in this chapter. I love how Paul goes before the governor, and his case isn't even heard. Not a hand is laid on Paul before he goes free. We're all going to walk through hard things in our lives, and sometimes we have to do things that are intimidating, but God is always faithful, no matter our circumstances. Now let's get into chapter 18. Verses 1 through 4. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth, and he found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome. And he went to see them, and because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and worked, for they were tent makers by trade. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, and tried to persuade Jews and Greeks. Summary. Paul goes to Corinth and meets Priscilla and Aquila and stays with them. They're all tent makers. Paul spends every Sabbath in the synagogue. Verses 5 through 11. When Silas and Timothy arrived from Macedonia, Paul was occupied with the word, testifying to the Jews that the Christ was Jesus. And when they opposed and reviled him, he shook out his garments and said to them, "Your blood be on your own heads. I am innocent. From now on I will go to the Gentiles." And he left there and went to the house of a man named Titius Justus, a worshipper of God. His house was next door to the synagogue. Crispus, the ruler of the synagogue, believed in the Lord, and together with his entire household. And many of the Corinthians, hearing Paul, believed and were baptized. And the Lord said to Paul one night in a vision, "Do not be afraid, but go on speaking, and do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one will attack you or harm you, for I have many in this city who are my people." And he stayed 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of God among them. Summary. When Silas and Timothy arrive, he spends all his time teaching. But again, Jews oppose him. So he goes to the Gentiles. He has a vision, and God promises to protect him. Verses 12 through 17. But when Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, the Jews made a united attack on Paul and brought him before the tribunal, saying, "This man is persuading people to worship God contrary to the law." But when Paul was about to open his mouth, Gallio said to the Jews, "If it were a matter of wrongdoing or vicious crime, O Jews, I would have reason to accept your complaint. But since it is a matter of questions about words and names in your own law, see to it yourselves. I refuse to be a judge of these things." And he drove them from the tribunal, and they all seized Sosthenes, the ruler of the synagogue, and beat him in front of the tribunal. But Gallio paid no attention to any of this. Summary. When Gallio becomes governor, the Jews falsely accuse Paul before him, but he dismisses the case before Paul can even defend himself. Instead, the crowd beats the leader of the synagogue. Verses 18 through 23. After this, Paul stayed many days longer, and then took leave of the brothers and set sail for Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila. At Cenchrea, he had cut his hair, for he was under a vow. And they came to Ephesus, and he left them there, but he himself went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. When they asked him to stay for a longer period, he declined. But on taking leave of them, he said, "I will return to you if God wills." And he set sail from Ephesus. When he had landed at Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church, and then went down to Antioch. After spending some time there, he departed and went from one place to the next, through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. Summary. Paul stayed a while, then went on to Cenchrea, where he shaved his head in conclusion of his oath, sailed on to Ephesus, and reasoned with the Jews, but didn't stay, and moved on to Jerusalem and Antioch, then back through Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening believers. 24 through 28. Now a Jew named Apollos, a native of Alexandria, came to Ephesus. He was an eloquent man, competent in the Scriptures. He had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in spirit, he spoke and taught accurately the things concerning Jesus, though he knew only the baptism of John. He began to speak boldly in the synagogue, but when Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately. And when he wished to cross to Achaia, the brothers encouraged him and wrote to the disciples to welcome him. When he arrived, he greatly helped those who through grace had believed, for he powerfully refuted the Jews in public, showing by the Scriptures that Christ was Jesus. Summary. Meanwhile, Apollos comes to Ephesus from Egypt, preaching Jesus' message boldly. He meets Priscilla and Aquila, and they teach him more, and the believers send him on to Achaia, where he continues boldly preaching Jesus' message.